I had a chance to talk to Bart Everson late last week, who's running for city council in the city of New Orleans. He's running a dynamic race. As you can imagine, New Orleans is a city that's been hit hard by a lot of the current events. And so let's take a listen to Bart and his race for office.
Welcome back, everyone. I am here with Bart Everson, who is running for city council as an at-large candidate in the city of New Orleans. Welcome, Bart.
Hey, thanks for having me.
No problem. So start off by telling us a bit about yourself and how you decided to run for office this year.
Well, I've been in New Orleans since 1999. So I like to tell people I've been living here since the last century. Even though I grew up in Indiana and spent one very important year for me in northern Sweden. Anyway, in recent years, of course, I've been a Green Party organizer for 20 years, but recently I've been involved with a lot of climate activism locally and nationally. This led to one of my fellow activists in the local community, reaching out to me and asking if I consider running for office as a climate candidate.
Nice.
They had a number of other social and climate justice activists that they approached. But you know how it is to actually run for office. Everything has to line up in a certain way. I've been asked this question over the years before, and it never was the right time for me. This time, though, I asked my family, and they gave me the thumbs up, and so I said yes. And so I kind of tell people I was drafted into this race. I'm a reluctant candidate because I have, I've got a full-time job already. I'm very comfortable in my routines, but I felt like I couldn't stay in those comfortable routines any longer. I had to get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And put myself out there specifically to get people talking about the biggest crisis that's facing humanity. And that is, of course, the climate crisis. We have a lot of other issues, but this issue is going to make all those other issues worse if we don't deal with it.
Right. And I imagine that, ironically, you probably started running for office before Ida and this latest wave of the evidence of the climate crisis, but in some ways, the sense of urgency is real. And, New Orleans, I think many of us, those of us who live outside the city, far outside in my case, in Philadelphia, we think of New Orleans in some ways as ground zero in the US for the climate crisis. I don't know how it feels where you are, but so talk about just the timeliness of this race and, it's the climate crisis, but also, New Orleans reeling from the pandemic. You've been hit hard by that. New Orleans been reeling from, racial injustice for generations. How is that all coming together in this campaign?
It certainly is all coming together, it seems like. In fact, we would be practically having this election right now if it wasn't for Hurricane Ida, which has postponed the whole thing by 5 weeks. So it's actually happening in November instead. Would have been in early October here. So at the most recent forum, one of the other candidates came to me and said, "Bart, I can't believe everything you've been talking about was borne out, has been proven true by this Hurricane Ida." So we all know it. It was this storm, of course, that intensified so rapidly over the Gulf of Mexico because the waters of the Gulf of Mexico are so hot. And this is exactly what was predicted. Strengthened so rapidly that we can't actually, even evacuate the city in a timely fashion. So it's caused people to sit up and take notice. And of course, it wreaked death and destruction, especially, New Orleans was spared the direct hit, but the parishes to our west, here it is a month after that hurricane, and people are still without power. People are still living in tents. And keep in mind, and this is in the richest country in the world, in a state that is like the oil and gas production one of the most productive areas for that kind of stuff. Of course, it's the exploitation of those natural resources that have led to the warming of the climate through air pollution, putting all this carbon into the atmosphere. Anybody who's watching this probably knows that. But a lot of people that I talk to out on the campaign trail, they don't know it, or at least they don't think about it that much.
Right.
And so I've been saying we need to be, we live in one of the cities that's most vulnerable to climate change. We really are on the front lines. And therefore we need to be at the forefront of meeting this challenge. We need to have this issue, the climate crisis, informing every discussion and decision that we make about public policy here at the local level. And we need to be at the forefront of meeting that challenge. And in terms of what that actually comes down to, the number one thing that I kept highlighting was we need to hold Entergy accountable. Entergy is our local, shareholder-driven, for-profit utility that the City Council of New Orleans actually has a unique regulatory authority. So this all became very timely when we had just such a hurricane hit. We're reeling in the after effects. It revealed that the infrastructure, the flood control infrastructure, which was invested in massively after Hurricane Katrina, held up pretty well. In fact, the Army Corps of Engineers looked at climate change projections as opposed to current conditions. They looked at these climate predictions for the future and delivered a better system to us. So that was very forward-looking. But on the other hand, the other major piece of infrastructure, the electrical grid, was revealed to be not in such good shape.
Right.
That we didn't have the investment that we needed there. And so, I've been saying we need to hold Entergy accountable. That was borne out by the failure of the electrical grid. It was a spectacular, I felt like I was proven right. I would rather not have been.
Right.
But there it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think as we've talked about before, the Green Party sometimes feels like, we're the mythical Cassandra, right? Able to predict the future, but no one believes us. And not that we want to say, I told you so, but, it's kind of telling that the other candidate came up to you and said that. I think in that vein, I think a lot of folks think of the Greens as, we have all the critiques and we can point out what's wrong, but do we have solutions? And so talk to me about, not aside from, holding Entergy accountable sounds like a huge, important piece of your campaign platform. I know that you're also campaigning on the Green New Deal and what we like to say is the real eco-socialist Green New Deal. So tell me more about what your solutions are for New Orleans moving forward into this next challenging period of the city's future.
Thanks for asking, because this is such an important question. Even since, and I recognize that I have a lot of learning to do about this. So I've been continuing to engage in that process. And even since the last time we talked, I've continued to really try to understand what it is about the kind of Green New Deal proposals that we hear so much about that kind of miss the mark a little bit, or a lot. The problem with a lot of what of course, the term Green New Deal, I use it. I do use it out on the campaign trail because I figure it's something people will recognize and they'll kind of key in. And at the basic idea of decarbonizing the economy or changing the footing of our economy to not create the conditions of, putting carbon into the atmosphere and, polluting the atmosphere and creating global warming. That at its core is fundamentally something I think we have broad agreement on. When people talk about a Green New Deal. Yes, absolutely. That's to me the essence of it. But how you go about doing that? Unfortunately, a lot of proposals kind of reproduce the same economic models that we already have. And we try to direct these kind of for-profit entities in a slightly different direction, but they're still driven by kind of an underlying motive that we have to extract maximum profit from the natural resources of the earth. When really, so first and foremost with the Green New Deal, we need to redefine our understanding of the parameters of success. What is a successful economy? And the way that we tend to think about this, of course, is with extraction of resources to create growth and just continual growth. And if the economy is not growing, then we're losing. It's not successful. We need to reframe that, right? We need to think about the things that really matter, the actual values that we really have. So things like actual usefulness instead of profit, or social and environmental well-being. If we can raise those up as our primary indicators of success, then we'll do a lot better. Of course, within that framework, then we have to have self-sufficiency and decentralization to put the economy on a new footing. And we have to think about what the purpose of the economy is. It's to make a stronger and more sustainable community. And I see that as probably, first and foremost, you think about food production. Sure, we need to promote urban agriculture and so forth, but a city like New Orleans is never going to be able to feed itself. So we have to develop really healthy and mutually equitable relationships with the outlying areas. Because we know a sustainable economy, the economy of the future, and we've known this for decades, is going to be one with the shortest distance between the site of production and consumption and disposal of hopefully very minimal waste. That all has to happen in a very local area. So we need to think in terms of regional sustainability, or regional self-sufficiency.
Right, local living economies, yeah.
Yes, and then to direct the work that needs to be done into new models of social organization. We just have to fundamentally recognize that if we're facing an existential threat, the social order that we know has failed us. So we need to look for new social constructions. So things like worker-led cooperatives. And we don't have to look that far. We have in Jackson, Mississippi, a great example called Cooperation Jackson, which is kind of well known. It's still emerging, a network of worker cooperatives. And then so when we see other cities implementing a Green New Deal at the municipal level, like New York has said, we're going to demand energy efficiency in these big apartment buildings and so forth. We can do the same thing here in New Orleans, but we need to foster that the jobs that are created through that into these kind of a more cooperative framework.
Yeah, great, inspiring. So tell me a little bit more about what it has been like to campaign in these times. COVID has obviously thrown things for a loop. Though I get the sense that some door-to-door campaigning is back in action, but then having Ida hit right as sort of things are ramping up. So tell me what it's been like to just get out there and meet people, and how have you been doing that?
Well, there's been good and bad parts. Frankly, the fact that so many meetings now are held on Zoom has made things easier, because I don't have to worry about getting to the other side of the city. I can just sit down in front of my computer and join the candidate forum, and my voice can
turn tie on the waist up, pajamas on the waist down.
Yeah, it could be. You never know. So there's that. That has actually created a more accessible candidate experience, and not just for the candidates, but also for the general public, right? It's easier for people to actually come out to a meeting if they don't have to come out.
Right.
So that's been good. Of course, I would rather have had it without the death and destruction that the pandemic has wreaked. What I've discovered though is, I got into this race because I felt people are not talking about this crucial issue, the climate crisis. And now that I've been I've been through the mill a few times now with these forums already, I can understand why, because there's a dynamic that prevails in these events. And that's that candidates generally try to tell voters what they think they want to hear in order to get elected. I mean, and I'm not even criticizing people for that. That's just the natural dynamic of it. Even if you're getting people whipped up and angry about something, you feel like it's something they want to be angry about.
Right.
But what I'm talking about is not something that people really want to hear about. It's something I feel they need to hear about, but they haven't been, and they generally feel kind of disempowered. And there is a broad lack of education, I think, across the country and here in Louisiana, in particular, where people don't even really understand. They have not connected all the dots of what's happening. So the challenge for me has been to sketch out the problem, try to tap into a little bit of fear that, oh my gosh, what's at risk? Everything is at risk. Everything we love is at risk. Don't misunderstand. This is not just a matter of like, oh, it's a little hotter. Right? This has profound implications. We should not take the habitability of our planet for granted. So I got to say all that, but that's just for starters, because that would be a horrible place to leave people.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Then I have to shift to, well, but we have to have the courage to face, what needs to be done for us, for our children, for the planet, for cute, cuddly animals, all of that stuff. And to say, here's how we can do it. And it could actually increase our quality of life. We could actually have a better life by making, these changes to our society and so forth. And by the way, do that all in 60 seconds.
Right. Well, I'm glad we had a chance to speak for more than 60 seconds tonight, but I think we are at time. So I just want to thank you again for sharing a moment and a glimpse into your campaign. Do you want to give us some final words about how folks can get involved and find out more information about your campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. I would encourage anybody who's interested to visit barteverson.com. It's just my name.com. And you can sign up for the campaign newsletter. You can make a donation. Just read about some of the policies and proposals, which I think are broadly applicable. So I hope that it inspires people to think about what we can do, what we should do, what we need to be doing, and perhaps even to get out of your comfort zone and to think about running for office. We need a whole slate of climate candidates.
That's right.
I think that the Green Party offers that. And finally, whoever wins in these election cycles that are taking place, here, there, and everywhere across the country, whoever wins, we need to hold those people accountable for climate action and climate justice.
Well said. Thank you so much. And then just on behalf of the Coordinated Campaign Committee, who we support candidates and campaigns running for office in the Green Party. And if you are inspired, like Bart, to get out of your comfort zone and run for office in your own local community, please tell us all about it. You can go to gp.org/run and sign up for resources and support. So thank you so much, Bart. Have a wonderful rest of the day and good luck in November.
Thank you, Hillary.
Take care.